Hi everyone out there, let's keep it real. Have you ever been having a really intense conversation with somebody and you're going back and forth, but nobody's really saying anything because they know if I hit this trigger point of what I really wanted to say, it's going to cause a lot of tension and uncomfortability. But then somebody finally pushes that right button and the other person says, look, I'm going to keep it real with you. And that's when the conversation actually begins, because then you're getting to the core of your feelings and your emotions. So that's the point of this segment for me. I want to skip past the part before and keep it real. Let's keep it real. I'm going to start by talking about a situation that happened to me in the 90s when I was in elementary school. I was about 8 or 9 years old, maybe second or third grade. And it was the first time I had experienced racism. I didn't even really know what it was to that point. Despite the fact that I was one of the few black kids in my school. I grew up in a rural part of Canada called Curtis, Ontario. If you know, you know. It's not that far from Toronto, maybe like 45 minutes, but the demographics are very different. Where I grew up, it was a predominantly white area, and I was in a predominantly white school. Again, this was not a big issue for me or any issue for me to that point. Until one day, this kid just walked up to me, calls me the N-word. I didn't even know how to react. I was in shock. I just said, leave me alone. That was the first time he said it. He continued on. He started talking about my N-word lips. He started talking about my N-word hair. He started telling me, oh, the white part of your hand is the best part, the only good part of your hand. Your N-word legs and your N-word this and your N-word that. So I kept telling him to stop. And then I reported him. I was telling the teachers what was happening, and they were just like, oh, stop clowning around. You know, like they weren't making it a thing, which now I realize they were all a part of it by not stopping it. Until one day, because this happened for multiple days and months, I got really upset. I was outside. We were waiting for our rides after school. We were walking towards the parking lot. He walked up. He whispered to me, you stupid N-word, blah, blah, blah. So at that point, I snapped and I grabbed him and I held him up against the wall. It's like, don't you ever call me that again. And I wanted to hit him. And because of how they responded, I kind of wish that I did, but that's neither here nor there. As I held him up against the wall, it was one of those moments where time stood still. Look around. There's a crowd of people around us, like one of those fight scenes you see in a movie. And the one thing that I noticed out of the corner of my eye was his mom, who had just pulled into the parking lot. She stepped out of the car. She was looking like this with her jaw dropped. And then I let him down. And he ran over to the car, crying. As if I had done the craziest thing to him. Now, I don't remember the order of events that happened after that, because obviously we're talking more than 20 years ago. But I do remember at some point, I'm in the principal's office with my mom. He's in the principal's office with his mom. He's crying. His mom's crying. His mom is like, I didn't raise a bully. I didn't raise my kids to fight like how she raised her kids, whatever, whatever. And I remember his account of this story, which is that I was bullying him. I kept threatening him and threatening him, telling him, I'm going to beat you up. I'm going to pummel you for no reason. He didn't say anything to me. I just was threatening him for no reason, just because I didn't like his face. And then that day was the day I was supposed to deliver, and his mom saved his life. I'm sitting there in that principal's office like, this is ridiculous. I don't have any history of fighting, bullying. I'm a quiet kid. I don't mess with anybody like that. And I'm not just going to say somebody is giving me racial slurs at like 8, 9 for no reason. So they're going to believe me. I wasn't terribly worried. Like, yes, I knew that I was going to get in some trouble for grabbing him and everything and telling him don't do it, but I figured that they would just be like, you're not the aggressor in this situation. You were wronged and you reacted. So that's the main thing that we're going to focus on. No, they didn't. They made me apologize. They didn't make him apologize. This to me was something on his end that warranted a whole suspension, at least at minimum, but probably an expulsion, in my opinion. He did not get in trouble. I got in trouble. I apologized. I got suspended. This is the first time that I saw kind of an example of how a justice system can work, because this is the reason they justified not getting him in trouble. Mark, multiple people saw you hold him up against the wall. Nobody heard him calling you racial slurs. Therefore, it didn't happen. I mean, they didn't tell me it didn't happen, but they treated it as if it didn't happen because I didn't have proof. Mind you, we're talking about the 90s. We didn't have smartphones. We didn't have anything like that. The only way I would have this captured is if maybe I brought one of those big recording devices with the whole cassette tape and held it up while he was talking to me. And I'm like, here, play the tape. Okay, Mark, you're this and that. At the time, I actually felt like 100% it was that I wasn't believed. I was telling them something and I wasn't believed. Now, with my adult mind, I'm telling myself, these teachers know my reputation. They know my family. They know my family. My sister was going to the school. They know my parents well. We have history there. I don't think they didn't believe me. This is the same thing that happens in the justice system. It's not what you know, it's what you can prove. They can prove that I grabbed him because they saw that. I, even as the person who was victimized, has to prove that he said these racial slurs to me, and I can't. So they were like, we can kind of sweep this thing under the rug as long as they accept the punishment that we give. And I didn't want to. It was gut-wrenching for me. My mom told me that I had to. My mom told me that she believed me, but that, you know, I should apologize and accept the punishment anyways. Again, microcosm of the justice system. So anyways, I remember going to the principal on my own. I don't even think my mom or anyone else knows this. After I got back into the school and asking them, what if he does this again? They were like, no, we instructed him to stay in his corner and you stay in your corner and you don't talk to each other. And I'm like, but I didn't talk to him in the first place. This happened because he kept following me and approaching me and forcing this conversation to take place. They were like, okay, we have this tissue box here, right? And we have some papers and a pen. Every time he says something to you, write it down on the paper, drop it in the box. I'm thinking to myself, great, now I'm going to have the proof that I need to get rid of him. He left me alone for a very short period of time, and then he came right back. Same slurs, same comments, same harassment, right? So I'm writing them down. I'm putting them in the box. I'm putting them in the box. Weeks are going by. Months are going by. And then I'm thinking, what's going on? He's still here. He's still saying this stuff. What's happening? So I go back to the principal. Hey, so I've been dropping these things in the box. I've been writing them down, whatever he said, and putting it in the box. And hey, he's still here doing it. Oh, it's being handled internally. And that's how it went. It never stopped, and that was that. So, keep it real with me. What do you think of the situation? What would you have done differently, if anything, in my shoes? all the parties that were involved. My mom, myself, the principal, him, his mom. Anything that you think was right or wrong in the situation and how you think that it should have been handled. I want to know in the comments. And thanks for joining me on this first episode of Let's Keep It Real. See you next time.